Okay, I think we are ready to get started. Thank you for joining us for our Remote Worker Agent webinar. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please feel free to use the chat function or the Q&A function located at the bottom of your Zoom screen, and we will answer all questions at the end of the webinar. All right, today's agenda, we are firstly going to go over why remote users, why the complaints are hard to isolate, followed by what the remote worker agent even does. And then we will go over how NetBees helps distinguish Wi-Fi versus ISP and VPN network issues. And then we will talk about how we evaluate NetBees in a 30-day POC, followed by a live demo of the product, and then a Q&A. So I'm going to turn it over to Stefano. Take us through the webinar.
All right, thank you, Jess. And hi, everyone. Welcome to the Remote Worker Agent webinar. This is the 2026 update. And yes, let's get started with explaining why the remote worker is needed and why we decided to build this solution. When supporting remote employees or remote users in general, it's very difficult to isolate the problems or the complaints that these remote employees are escalating to an help desk or to whatever team is in charge to support the remote users. And of course, this is something that it became more common to most organizations, of course, after COVID, with everybody working from home, and then with the switch to perhaps hybrid work or in general remote work. And so when employees or users work remotely, there are really a lot of issues or problems that can reduce their end user experience. Could be the local Wi-Fi network, could be the internet service provider, perhaps the VPN, if they use that to connect to the internet in general or to the corporate applications, or sometimes could also be the actual SaaS application itself. And with all these possible root causes of user complaints, the traditional infrastructure tools really, they cannot provide the data that the troubleshooter needs to quickly identify if it's a real problem and what the root cause could be. Generally, the infrastructure tools, SNMP and others, they provide the device status information, but they don't really give you what is the remote end user perspective because they're not built with that function. So that's why something like NetBees Remote Worker is needed. So if you don't have NetBees, the result is that your ticket resolution time will definitely be high. You'll have a lot of network escalation, perhaps to the high-level team versus those should be issues that should be handled by the level one or kind of the first team that is responsible for support. And as a result, the whole IT organization will have less efficiency in their support operations, and also it will impact the confidence that the executive, the management, has on the support team. And this is why we developed NetBees. The architecture is pretty simple. We have remote agents, and the remote worker is a lightweight client that gets installed on Windows or Mac. So you can capture what the remote user are seeing. And of course, NetBees support other types of agents, such as hardware, virtual, cloud appliances. And all these agents, then they report back to the central server where the dashboard runs and all the data is retained and the logic and the monitoring is happening. And the dashboard can be hosted by NetBees in the cloud, or you can host it also yourself in your own private or public cloud based on what your preference is. So it's a very flexible solution, highly scalable. We have customer with tens of thousands of remote agents that they support. And it's definitely like a multi-environment as we support different networks, such as remote networks, corporate networks, Wi-Fi networks, and cloud networks. All right, so what are the benefits really? First of all, is that you can understand what is the remote user perspective into the network and application performance. And that gives you the visibility that you lost when users move from an office, which is a highly managed and kind of controlled environment, to their remote houses, homes. And so you can regain back that visibility that you lost when they start working remotely. Second, it really helps you pinpoint, distinguish between Wi-Fi, ISP, and VPN issues. And I have some slides that just to give you the idea of how that is done. But then, of course, if you want to dig more into the method, please schedule a demo at any point in time, so you can really like see a bit more in details how that is done. So with NetBees, you can support really remote troubleshooting easily without having to, speak with the remote users while they're working without interrupting their work. So they have a problem with Teams, VoIP, any other VoIP application, including Zoom. Well, that can be handled autonomously, remotely from the NetBees dashboard. And lastly, it really creates the confidence and the validation that you really know what are the real network problem versus some other problems, perhaps. And it gives you a better accounting of what are the real root causes of remote user complaints, and then, of course, adjust your IT strategy accordingly. And so that really helps not only to reduce troubleshooting time, but also reduces ticket escalation, because now the L1 team or the helpdesk team has the data that they need to really handle the tickets of themselves without further escalating to higher level teams. And really, we can say that we deliver kind of the visibility, the user experience that the NOC is missing without a tool such like NetBees. All right, so let's go over some kind of method of how to identify what could be the root cause of a remote user complaint. First, I'm going to briefly show you how the NetBees dashboard looks, and then through slides I'll show you the different elements where you can identify the root cause of Wi-Fi or VPN or internet problems. So first of all, I'm going to briefly share the dashboard so you can see it. Okay. So as you can see here, this is the main bathtub. I'm gonna switch now to the remote workers agent. Let's take, for example, Jess agent. You can see here at a glance, really, I can see the status of the interfaces. Jess is connected to the status of the test I'm running. I have a wireless section where you can see how good or bad is the wireless connectivity. I can also see the path analysis, how is the kind of hop by hop experience for just two different applications, whether it's a Zoom or some other targets that I'm monitoring. And then also here, I can see also the internet performance. All right, so now that you have at a glance how this looks, let me go back into how to understand what the root cause could be when NetBees detects a problem, because the nice thing of NetBees is that you don't have to wait even for remote user complaints. You already have the incident detection logic that gives you visibility into remote user issues. So let's start with Wi-Fi. It's one of the most common problems for remote user complaints. And this is because home Wi-Fi networks are not designed as your company's wireless network. They generally have one access point, which is also the router. It's kind of consumer grade. It's not like enterprise grade. And oftentimes is located in the most remote or more messy or unavailable place in your house. And maybe you're far away because your office where you work is not right next to it. And so this is the same kind of wireless metric section that I showed you before. And as you can see that in this case, NetBees can measure the signal strength, and we see a visible drop in signal strength, which could really definitely impair the remote user experience with high packet loss, high latency, and disrupt the VoIP or any other applications that the remote user is using. So this is one example of how you would be able to identify Wi-Fi issues as the main root cause. So let's move to the next root cause, ISP connection. This is when you see a situation like this. You see there is a sudden drop on ISP performance in terms of download and upload speed. Perhaps all the other metrics are stable. The thing that you see is definitely a drop in download and upload speed. And NetBees can alert you on this. NetBees can tell you, NetBees can really tell you, all right, when there is a drop in network speed and send you notification. So you already are on top of it. And then you can work with the remote employees that can perhaps call their internet service provider and escalate, open a ticket so that they can look into their connection. Then a third root cause is the VPN tunnel. Employees that use the VPN to connect to the internet or to connect to the company's private network to access sensitive data or internal applications. They can, with NetBees, you can monitor the VPN performance. You create a target, which is a set of tests that run across the VPN. And if you see a situation like this where an alert is triggered by NetBees on the VPN tunnel only, well, that indicates clearly a problem with that specific connection. In this case, you can see that NetBees detected increase of latency and packet loss, and so it should trigger an alert, which then is reported to the IT for escalation or proper next step. And then last, it could be the application. NetBees, the power of distributed network monitoring is that you have a lot of remote agents or remote eyes into the performance of a service or an application. And by doing so, you have the confidence that if all the agents are seeing the same pattern, the same problem with an application, well, then that tells you, assuming all the other variable and metrics are stable, then you can pretty, with accuracy say that is an application issue. NetBees has that logic built in, so it will trigger when that situation happens, an incident related to the target. So you already know that if user complaints is not going to be something at the network level, but rather at the application level, and that could be escalated with the SaaS provider or with the application team in the case of an internal network. So yeah, this would be the fourth root cause typical of work from home users. And another thing that you can see in NetBees is also validate that with maybe a path analysis to see actually down the path of where packets are being dropped completely or to a certain extent. All right, so now that we see how your team can use the NetBees dashboard and the elements that it provides to really troubleshoot remote employees' issues, I also want to show you something new that we just released last month, which is the NetBees MCP server, which what an MCP server is nothing other than a way for your LLM, whatever you use, if it's Claude or OpenAI or Copilot, to interact with your NetBees data, right? So it's basically a connector, put simply. And the nice thing of using the NetBees MCP server in conjunction with whatever LLM you use is that to troubleshoot remote worker issues, instead of even looking for data within the dashboard, you can just simply like chat with the LLM and get the resolution, the root cause, pretty simple. So you have a large team of a help desk. Maybe they don't have time to do basic training, right? Or they don't have time to access the NetBeans dashboard. Well, with the tools such as an LLM and this NetBeans MCP server, they can really chat with the data and get, update their ticket and serve their customers, their, remote users. So let me show you a very brief demo about that. So I'm gonna share my terminal. I think you can see it now, yes. All right, very well. So you can see that I'm running Codex, which is OpenAI, but again, any other LLM will work. And another thing that I want to do is, let me show you also that before I go into Codex. Let's go back to the NetBeans dashboard. Okay, you can see here, and you can see that in the last 24 hours I had different incidents, right? And perhaps I'm one of the help desk assigned to, provide an update to a ticket that a remote user opened. And so I'll take maybe this remote user, Melanie. I'll check the last incident that she had. The incident number is 145107. So without even like digging into the data, searching on the dashboard, I'm just gonna ask the AI, hey, troubleshoot this for me. I need to update the ticket, and that's it. So let's take this number again. So I remember, okay, put it here. And now I'm gonna share my AI window. There you go. Okay. So now I'm gonna ask, find the root cause for NetBeans incident 145107. That's it. That's all I need to ask the AI. I don't need to do anything else or, troubleshoot. Of course, the AI is gonna do integrated with the NetBeans data, do the query that it needs to do its own analysis, and then it's gonna, output what findings it found within the NetBeans data, and then possible root causes and next step. There you go. And you can see that what it's doing is just running Indian APIs to gather the data from your dashboard. So to integrate with the NetBeans MCP server with your dashboard, you need just an API key, basically. That's pretty much it. So pretty simple also to set it up. And then that's it. You have all this kind of intelligence on at your fingertips. Of course, AI is not always right, but it definitely can be a great aid, especially for the most common problems that, again, may take time to your team to troubleshoot and investigate and right? So this is all efficiency that your team can achieve. Of course, you still need kind of a human to review the data that the AI points out. And in fact, that's why another good thing of this method is that the AI always gives you all the facts, all the data, so you can also like review, make sure, validate that whatever finding it got in the analysis, you can, of course, double check, right? And so you can see that it's working. Here you see some reasoning that it goes along the way. So at least you don't just, stare at the screen of API calls. Here, for example, it says that this incident was triggered by different ping tests to Google and the gateway target that we have. Then it found the Wi-Fi definitely went down, so there could be a Wi-Fi issue there, but we still don't know. But of course, it's checking a whole bunch of data to make sure that that is accurate. Some counter signal. Again, this was not scripted, so I'm making sure, right? It's something that I'm looking for the first time. Okay, so here we have it. I'm gonna try to skim what is writing, but the NetBeans incident was caused by the short local connectivity degradation on this agent, not by Google, so it was not an application issue. Then it gives you the evidence, the data that you can review to double check and verify the AI is correct. I'm gonna skip that. Let's go straight to the root cause, a transient last stop Wi-Fi impairment on Melanie's local network. most likely interference, retransmission, or IP side retention. The stronger indicator is that the local gateway failed first and the internet ping failed at the same time. If Google was the root cause, the gateway ping would not have degraded with it. So, of course, in NetBees, we have a lot of signals that the AI can use to strengthen or not a specific thesis, because we don't just ping, we have Wi-Fi, we have also data from other agents, right, to compare. So most likely check Melanie's AP client path around this time and the channel utilization interference on SSID, blah, blah, API, blah, blah. All right, so with that, let me go back to the slide. So I hope that this was a very simple use case. There you go. I'm back to the slide, but was good. It was a good demonstration of how you can really integrate NetBees with this data, with AI. So what's next? Well, if you want to test drive NetBees, we offer a 30-day free trial. All you have to do is go to the website and request the free trial. And during this 30-day trial, you can, kick the tires and see if that's a tool that your team can use. We generally structure our proof of concept, week by week. The first week, you'll install the remote worker agents and activate the dashboard. And then in the second week, you will review the detected problems and make sure there are not like false positive or maybe too much noise. You want to tweak and tune the alerts, so that week 3, you start really using that data and the alerting to really like identify main problems of your network or with your remote users, of course. And then lastly, at the end of week 4, we really like do an overall analysis of the benefits achieved or estimated, because not being a full rollout, you might have like a limited data, but at least you have enough information to decide the next step and to what extent you want to roll out a full deployment of NetBees. So if you want to request a trial of NetBees, just go to our website /pricing. You see there the request, the free trial request form. Yes, I think that's it, Jess. At least on my end, do you have any question or comments?
I'm not seeing any at the moment, but if you think of one after the webinar and you would like to ask it, please feel free to visit our website, netbees.net, and use our intercom chat function to ask any questions that you have. Excuse me, or reach out to our sales team. We'd be happy to give you a demo, answer any questions that you have. And if you're having any sort of issues yourself that you cannot find the root cause, please come to us and maybe we can help you solve it by showing you what NetBees can do and how we can help you solve issues more quickly than you were before. Also, I'm going to add a link to our help desk manual. If you want to help your team learn how to use our dashboard, we just released a manual last month of exactly a step-by-step guide of how you can help your team to use our dashboard and get everyone onboarded with that. So I will send the link in the chat now, and it is also on our resources page on our site. But thank you so much for attending our webinar. Thank you, Stefano. Thanks for the live demo. And we will see you next time for our next webinar.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.